Sweet. Okay, so this actually is a kind of a nice, it shows
Good noon,
about the whole thing.
everybody.
Hello.
It's not morning, it's not afternoon, it's good noon. Well, technically it is afternoon because we're a couple minutes late. We're having problems with the Wi-Fi. But here we are and excited to show you guys the first step. We're going to break it down today. Oops, sorry.
Break it down, down.
Ooh, that's a good song. We are breaking down the Paint Inlays into 3 separate episodes, 3 separate lives, so that we can really kind of dive a little bit deeper and take our time going into detail on all 3 steps. Today is the first in that 3-part series, and today we are going to be doing just the arranging. We're going to show you some different techniques on arranging. We are using the Queen, and we will be using her and showing you some different ways to apply her to different pieces. So if you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you are on Facebook, like and follow. Okay?
Yes.
And set your notifications so you don't miss anything.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so we're taking the Queen.
A little bit awkward because the arm where it needs to be in order to get the large surface with an overhead view is kind of like right in our faces. So forgive us there. But it does get, we have a very large cutting mat here, which we're using. And it does get the majority of it. So it gives us a really nice
We love our new cutting mat.
view of
Highly
it.
recommend this for use with the Paint Inlays and this.
Yes.
A rotary
this
cutter.
Rotary cutter is really a cool, it's a I always pronounce it wrong. Fiskars.
Oh, I thought it was
I always
Fiskars.
thought it Fiskars, but at CHA, when we used to go to CHA, they called it Fiskars.
And they are the company that makes them, so they would know.
And then we have a straight edge and this really big, how big is this cutting mat, sis?
Well,
It is
it's marked, so it's 89 inches by 59 inches. 89 by 59.
Okay, that's not right. These are not inches.
Oh, okay.
Because that's not 59 inches.
Anyway, it's a big cutting mat.
That must be centimeters. Okay, inches is on the other side.
Yeah.
Okay, it is a big cutting mat.
I don't like that you guys are so far away.
I know, I can't read
what you're saying.
We had to set this up a little different in order to have space for this big demonstration. So,
yeah.
So it is what it is.
It is.
So the first step, as Sally mentioned, would be planning out your arrangement and your piece.
Very important.
And in that process, the first part of that is to trim your sheets.
May I say something about that?
Absolutely.
As creatives, a lot of us, myself included, Josie included, tend to rush through these types of steps.
Yeah,
you want to get started and you want to get that bad boy on your piece, but take your time and arrange it right and don't rush through this process. This is important.
Yes, you want to plan it out
I'm going to see if I can get your phone and look at the comments because I want to see.
That's a good idea. My phone's right over there.
Okay.
So these come with a piece of tissue. We are going to lay them out paint side down. So front down, grid side up. So you can see this side has the paint. This side has the grid. And if you look closely, you can see the grid goes right over the paint. And it's not a difficult mistake to make to get those backwards. And we've actually had a couple of customers mishaps, totally understandable. So when we're planning it out, we're going paint side down so that we can see it as it will appear on your piece.
I just noticed we both have double buns today.
Yes, we do. Oh,
the wind.
The wind is not our friend.
Here you go.
Oh. Here we go. And you're going to, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we're putting these face down. They have extra pieces of tissue with it. in order to protect that while you're laying it out. This is all dry, so it would be fine really without that, but we'll do it anyways. So let's go ahead and just lay these out.
Let me know if you need anything. I'll
Okay.
just be here chatting with everybody.
Okay. We know that's at the top. We know.
Again, if you're just joining us, we are doing the first in a 3-part series on using the paint inlays. And today we are showing you how to arrange the inlay and how to use them with different size pieces.
Yes.
Like pieces of furniture, I mean.
Yes. These are each a 12 by 16 sheet, and there are 8 of them in this beautiful design. And I'm not going to be able to fit them all on here, so
Okay, I see your guys' comments
we
now.
are going to overlap a little bit. Of course, you always want to keep them clean and protected until it's time to use them. And this is the basic layout of the queen without any rearrangement. But just to give you an idea, you want to get a lay of the land. So we're going to lay this out and then talk about trimming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this goes here. And last but not least, this goes here. So matches right up here with, shows you the layout. There we go. On the back of the packaging. Now it also shows on the back of the packaging, each of the sheets has a margin of unprinted, unpainted paper and carrier sheet, and that needs to be trimmed off. If you do not trim that off, you're going to have a difficult time putting your seams together neatly and aligned. So the first thing that has to happen. Now I have, but I've been doing this for a little while, trimmed more than one sheet at a time. And you can do that, but the first time I recommend doing it one sheet at a time so you can get a feel for it and not overcut or undercut. Truth be told, if you're going to err one way or another by a millimeter, it would be to overcut because you don't want a gap. And what you'll have is, if you have a gap here, so like say you trim it, but you only trim it that short, that little bit of unpainted paper is going to create a gap in your design. So you want to avoid that.
Mary Casey asked, any reason why you changed her name? We changed her name because the term, originally she was called Gypsy Queen, and that term is offensive to some people and to some cultures. So we decided to, when we came out with her again, rename her.
Yes. So, here we go. It honestly, we didn't get a lot of complaints or feedback, but we did a little bit of research, and we thought, there's not a huge upside to not changing it. Right. And if there are, folks who that would be offensive to, then why not just change it? It's not worth it. So it was an easy decision, but okay. So
Erin said, yay, no leaf blower today.
Yay, so far. No
so
leaf
far,
blower.
yeah. Tuesday mornings seem to work pretty well in terms of the landscaping.
Yes.
We're in the garage, though.
So question, sis.
Yes.
You are the one I'm going to ask. Do you... I don't know that we want to take the time to trim all of them right now, or do we? I'm trying to...
So no.
Let's get close, because that's boring.
Nobody wants to watch us do that. And I don't think it's necessary in order to show them the different things we want to show them.
Right.
Which are, one, to arrange it as it is on a large piece that can fit the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then also
Agree.
how to rearrange.
Agree. So what I want to do is get... I wasn't rushing you along. Is to get a close-up shot of this trim so that people can see exactly how and I like a square when I'm using for a straight edge. Mm-hmm. This is a construction square, so it's a little bit overkill, but a lightweight but large like aluminum square, because that just gives me a sense that I'm squared up. So
I like the heavy over the top ones like this because it just is weighted down. So when I find when I'm using the rotary, if it can push it aside, it sometimes does.
Yes. Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stabilize it with this hand. And when you're using this setup, a square or a straight edge and a rotary, you do want to be careful of shift, and you don't want to be pushing into your square. You want to be pushing down, but just using that square as a guide.
Mm-hmm. Leah said, I purchased this inlay and the chintz so I could practice before I try this one. I'm terrified to get started. Thank you for the instructions. So we were actually laughing this morning because a lot of people, when we came out with the Queen of the Nile, a lot of people suddenly were very motivated to learn how to use the inlays. And that was not by accident.
So you can see I got a tiny bit of the paint on there, but it is really like a millimeter, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. So you're going to go in, and on the Queen of the Nile, you actually don't necessarily need to get the outside edge of the compiled piece because you're not dealing with seams on that. But the inside edge you need all the pieces that are going to be tiling.
So do you know offhand how big is this design?
Yes, it is.
It'll be 24.
So it's 12 by 16 sheets, and they're going in landscape. So it's 16 and 16, so it's 32 by
those are
12-inch ends. So that's 48.
Okay.
So it's 32 by 48 with a smidge, because that includes the margins. So I believe it's like a 1/2 inch smaller than that. Mm-hmm. I'm combining for the total to be, would that be like? It's a couple inches shorter all around.
Because of the trimming. Yeah.
Yeah. You're asking me to do math while I'm focusing on this. Approximately 32 by 48.
Okay.
Okay. So this one is trimmed, and you see it's the two sides that will be relevant. Since these edges are not, or rather, these edges are not tiling up to anything, I don't need to deal with those. So, and should we ask, is there any questions about the trimming aspect?
Oh, about the trimming.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you. But if anybody has any questions about what we've gone over so far, go ahead and ask in the comments and we will answer. While we're waiting for that, we get this question asked a lot. I'm going to let you answer it because you're the most familiar with this. Do you ladies think these are best on chalk paint? So let's talk about the kind of paint and why.
Yes. And the short and simple answer is yes. For your basic installation.
Chalk or mineral based.
Chalk or mineral base that does not have a significant amount of polymers. And the reason for that, whether the polymers are urethanes or latexes, those polymers, their job is to grab and to grip. And so what can happen is it can narrow your open time and have more tendency to grab it and not release it. That said, you can use other paints, in fact, clear finishes for basic installation. You just need to be mindful of the fact that those polymers are going to want to grip it and aren't going to release it. It can have an effect on how much pigment is left on your sheet, and so therefore it can affect how many reuses you get out of it and what those reuses look like. So it's not a cut and dry answer. I recommend for your first time using one that doing the really basic application, which would use a paint that does not have like a true mineral or chalk type paint that does not have significant amounts of polymer, and then experiment with other. Talk to your stockist because they're already experimenting and unpacking and trying with their favorite paint brands, both the type that have polymers and the type that don't have polymers. So definitely look to your stockist and get their input on that. Does that answer the question?
That answers it very thoroughly. Thank you. I want to read this comment by Carolyn Duncan because can you guys hear that leaf blower? Is that really difficult? Let us know. I think because our mics are on, you can't, and that is off. I think it's not as bad as we are hearing it, but the leaf blower just went on.
And I don't think it'll be long because it's just the homeowner. It's not the landscaper. So
true. Okay. So Carolyn says, I have transfers and molds and paper clay, but I'm so afraid of making my pieces look junky. How much do you have to practice before you commit to final placement? I would hunch to say, Carolyn, that you should just jump in. I think that, absolutely have fun and practice, but don't be afraid to get in there and do it. I think what's holding you back is the fear of not loving your first piece. But the truth is you have to go through that to learn and get better.
True. You can also use smaller pieces of scrap wood to practice and create real things. And in that, there's going to be that learning so that you're going to get that experience in the process. But another thing is using scraps takes away that fear because you're like, it's a scrap of wood.
One of the best
only going to get better
to practice on is a gallery piece. So a art piece. Like Josie said, you take a piece of board that could be a picture. And what's beautiful about that is when you're done, it is a finished piece. It's a finished project. So it's not just practice. It's also something you'll be excited to hang on your wall when you're done.
Yes.
But it's a low commitment. So that's definitely true that you do want to practice. But we're all about conquering creative fear and really jumping in there and getting in it, getting your hands dirty. And the more you do that, the better you're going to feel, the more familiar. It's like anything else, any other skill.
That's exactly right.
Have to practice.
Get in and play.
Get in
and give yourself that grace. Two things. Give yourself that grace to like have it not so called perfect, but also remember that creators, when you are kind of tunnel vision and hyper focusing on your project and you're in it, your eyes will start to acclimate and your creative filter will start to acclimate. And what will happen is you really need to get a break. Set it aside, take a break, blah, 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 come back with fresh eyes. One thing I like to do, and I suggest put it somewhere that's out in the open, but you'll catch it in your peripheral. It's not necessarily like right there where you're going to see it every time. But, and then take note, like make a mental note when you pass by and it catches you and you're like, oh, I really like this, or this looks off. And you're gonna, those fresh eyes and a break are really gonna be good for you. So.
Anything creative. And even like I do that with my surfacescaping. So in my house, I do a lot of like my mantle arranging and my coffee table arranging. And I'll just start it, walk away and look at it with fresh eyes and I immediately can see what it needs.
Yes.
And our creative projects are very similar.
Exactly. So. Now, are we going over now different ways that you can rearrange it?
Yeah.
Well, I think because this is already laid out, kind of diagramming right on this, I feel like would be a
good idea.
Good way to
do
do
it.
it.
Drop that.
Yeah, we'll drop this lower.
Closer.
Forgive us while we adjust the camera for a moment.
Yep. You could even go lower if you can.
Okay.
Go one more down. Because
I totally passed on a joke because it wasn't appropriate. That was good of me. Just now.
I made a joke?
No. You opened it up and I'm like, if I was at home
Now
with
everyone's
Eric-
gonna be everyone's gonna be rewinding. I don't want to know. Okay, moving on.
No, nothing. It wasn't anything big. Like if I was home,
Not
I would say,
too
"Oh, I
perfect.
can go low," but never mind. Okay, moving along. I didn't mean it that way. I meant like
Anything can happen.
low
in
character,
life.
low. It's like we're live. Yeah, that proves it. Okay. I was using my filter and I was telling you guys, aren't you proud of me? Okay, so here we go. This is great. Do we have a pen? Because a pen would even, probably not, huh? Like a whiteboard pen? No?
A what?
Like a whiteboard pen?
Yeah, I can go grab one. I think
Okay.
Maddie has some inside. I don't think you'll be able to erase it on that though.
No, but I just mean so that it shows.
Okay.
So a color. Let's see. Oh, I see here. That's true. Such restraint, right, Julie? That's what I was feeling like. I was celebrating restraint, but I guess in the process, irony. You are welcome, Beth. She says, hello, sisters. I just ordered this transfer last week, or the inlay last week, but had to take a road trip to Idaho to help my daughter. Well, that is definitely a worthy reason to break from it. Thank you for sharing the tips and tricks. It is our pleasure. We're just so excited to have you guys get to making with these. And so we're like, we need to take more time. And if any of you haven't caught the 101 video for inlays, catch that. There's a lot in there too. But okay, so for example, we're talking about different ways that you might want to use this. So you could, let's just hit a super simple variation. That would be a more landscape
horizontal
dresser. Yeah, exactly. So
That's
for
gonna be
example,
pretty
like
common.
this one behind us, you can't see the whole one, but that we did the paradise inlay on. So we've got this portion here and you can cut them apart just like you can cut other ones apart. And I have a little more to say about that after we go over the alternative layouts. So just being super simple, we could have it be her upper portion, okay? And so you would use these just as they are. And then you might take these portions of the text and bring them out here.
Mm-hmm.
And then go in with some of these florals. So kind of like take these and bring these up here, right? And then take portions of these florals and bring them also up here, tapering out.
Mm-hmm.
So
sometimes you have to kind of get started on your piece to visualize and see how it's going to come together. I don't know if you guys are like me creatively, but sometimes I can have paralysis of analysis. And I find that it's so much easier for me if I get started.
Yeah.
And just kind of start moving, and then it starts to come together.
That is so true. And remember, because of the nature of inlays and the fact that you almost always, unless you are intentionally trying to avoid the character that comes with inlays, you're going to have character and you're going to have distress. There's texture. So it makes it even more forgiving than a lot of products. So that you have, for example, if you're not perfect when you're cutting out these floral sections or whatever, and then you butt it up to another floral, they're not going to line up perfectly because you're kind of quilting them together. And that's okay, because it's not going to stand out. It's going to look very natural because you've got that inherent texture happening with inlays.
So Nancy Stevens, I want to ask you a question. You say cutting is my worst fear. Tell me what you're afraid of. Analyze that fear and tell me, like, worst case scenario, what do you think is going to happen as you cut your inlay apart? If you can answer in the comments about that, because I kind of want to get to the bottom of that.
That's a great idea, and we can talk about what if that happened. What would you do?
Exactly.
Now, while we're thinking on that, here's one of the things that if you are not applying sheet to sheet, end to end, and you're patching pieces together where there will be areas of your paint, of your painted surface that are not covered by an inlay, you will see there's a slight difference in texture. Well, I say slight, but it can be significant depending on how you apply it. Right, how you apply it and how your brush strokes are. If you've got like a lot of brush strokes and you've got a really strokey finish on there, and then you go and put a piece of inlay on there, and that ends up getting smoothed out because you're patting it down or brayering it, however, you know, the different ways that you can engage it with the surface to get it inlaid there. You'll have a difference in texture. Sometimes it's very subtle and sometimes it's more significant. There's a couple different ways you can deal with it. You can see how to downplay it, don't get too brushy so that you can plan for that. And then you can sand down or like smooth with sandpaper after the fact, after it's dried. Or you can take a used inlay sheet and cover those areas at the same time as you are and soften those down in the same way.
Ooh, good idea.
In fact, Michelle Fapard has done that on a few of her pieces as well to kind of compensate for any texture changes.
Michelle has some
And
great...
there's probably other solutions that we haven't. If you think of some, share it.
Yes. And Michelle has some great, Michelle Fapard, P-H-I-P-P-A-R-D, has some wonderful... Serendipity
House?
LLC, yes. Serendipity House LLC. She has some wonderful paint inlay video tutorials, so check her out on YouTube.
Yes, she's one of our stockists who jumped in with both feet and was like, I'm going to be an early adopter on this. I see the potential.
We were just bragging on her to each other this morning.
We were.
We're proud of you, Michelle.
Yes. So, what have we, what else do I need to, that would be one way to put it on.
That would be one way. I think you covered it. I mean, really, you could.
Yeah, you could really do it in a lot of different ways, especially because the titles here, lotions and potions, would be super easy to isolate away from the other pieces. Same with with these pieces. You could cut her out of that and rearrange her. In fact, Lynn Brundage with L&J Goods did a great rearrangement and went. This is very, very symmetrical as it is. She wanted something asymmetrical. And so she did some rearranging on, I believe it was a very large wall art piece, if I'm not mistaken, and created an asymmetrical layout with her. And that looked fabulous. So
Judy Gunlock said, I tried my first inlay yesterday and I didn't have a brayer, so I got a lot of wrinkles. So so that is what Josie is talking about. But tell me what you thought about that and how the finished piece looks. We would love to see it.
Yes.
But there are some tips, like Josie said, to minimize that if you're not looking for that extra contrast and texture.
And we'll deep dive a little bit into that when we do the second of the three inlay lives.
Jeanette Bruce asks, hi, what color would be best under this inlay?
Oh.
There are so many possibilities, honestly. Well, we really like this.
Yeah.
It's like a newsprint color behind it. It's a custom mixed color.
You can a little bit.
It's like a warm, soft gray.
Here, I will go behind this and face it to see that a little better for a second.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So you can see, it was like the color of modern newsprint. It's not the more golden age. It's just a pale,
Yeah.
almost like a taupe. It's
the
not,
lighting is actually warming it up on camera.
Yeah,
It's
it
not
is.
quite that
It's
warm.
warmer.
It's actually a
More
cooler
neutral.
color. It's more neutral.
I would say
Very
it's
neutral.
almost like a
Like
really
a
light,
grayish.
a really light grayish or really light taupe. And then
Yeah.
some of that is darker. We went in with a tone on tone and added more distressing and so forth.
Mhm.
That is fabulous for a neutral. I'll show you the packaging. We actually have an example, and we do many times. This is a armoire done by Elsie Lane Boutique, and we use real furniture many times from our stockists with their permission to do our virtual. Oh, that's blurry. Let me see if I can. That's about as close as I can get it without. To do our virtual display of the product, because packaging happens before we're able to get projects done. So this is a virtual display, but we actually had a couple of stockists create pieces with where the paint color play is happening before they apply the inlay.
Lynn Brundage actually has a L&J Goods has a tutorial on how to use blended color with your inlays.
Yes.
A great tutorial.
Whoops, because you can see this is a blended color piece that she had done here.
So Casey Buckley, Josie, she wants to know how you mentioned that you're going to be applying Queen of the Nile in your bathroom.
Yes.
How are you going to do it directly on the wall or on a piece?
I'm going to do it directly on the wall, and I'm so excited. I actually took the inlay that we applied to this armoire because I want to do the second use of it for my wall, and that's in my bathroom on a feature wall that is just suited perfectly to it. So I'm going to get probably like a dark gray as opposed to the soft black. It'll probably be a medium to dark gray, and I will probably use a true chalk type paint to do that wall, and then I will use a flat sealer to seal it because I'm not a fan in most cases of gloss wall paint. I like as matte as possible, and so I'll probably use a very matte wall sealer.
I have to fight with everybody about putting a flat paint in my bathroom.
Yes, especially paint contractors.
Yes, they're so fussy about that.
Huge gap between designers and people.
Do you guys ever experience that?
Paint contractors.
Okay.
Maybe all contractors. It's a thing. Don't get me started. Okay. Where was I? Colors. But I'm telling you, this would go on basically any color. And I'm remembering one thing that I'm glad that you asked this, because the only thing you want to be aware of is if you get your colors too close, the color of the inlay with the color of the paint you're inlaying it to, you can lose the inlay. In other words, it won't show up enough if you get your colors too close. So you don't want to go too much darker than, and when I'm thinking dark, it doesn't only apply with shades of gray to black for in this example, but just think of color values, like we learned about values in our art classes in school, and that's the darkness
and
of
you
it.
Want enough contrast.
So you want enough contrast.
So another question.
Yes.
And we have been asked this a lot, and I've heard you address it, but the inlays, a lot of people, you don't want to use your transfers outside, but can the inlays be used outdoors?
They can, and that's going to be a matter of what kind of sealers that obviously also your preparation. You all want to be going on a surface that is properly prepared and appropriate paint for, exterior. So for example, we were talking about the true mineral and chalk style paints. Those typically are fine for outside. Then you're going to do your inlay in it, and then you're going to use sealers that are appropriate for outdoor use. Now that said, color fastness, light fastness is always subject to at least some degree of fading when it is in direct sun.
Mhm.
And that's just, the sun trumps all. It's the
sun
truth.
is in charge.
The sun is in charge. So you
Okay.
need to keep that in mind. If it's something you're like, I don't want it to fade at all, then don't have it be outside. On that note though, Erin and I have our hen house in our front pasture is a single horse trailer, and it's old and it's rusty and it's funky, and we're going to paint it white, and we are going to inlay the Gregory seed catalog on each side of it.
I love that inlay.
It's going to be so amazing.
Have you
and
guys seen
pretty.
that inlay? It's so gorgeous.
I'll have Erin get a decent picture and post that in the thread so you guys can see
100%.
the before. And I'm
Yes.
very excited. We're going to let some of that rust, because there's big patches of bare metal rusted.
Oh my gosh.
We'll let it run.
Okay, so there's that when you have real rust, but let's do the Gregory inlay on a live and do some of our faux rust technique on it.
That would be
Wouldn't that
awesome.
be fun? Oh,
so
that
fun.
one will look gorgeous with some rust.
So does that answer your exterior use? It's all about the sealing. So it's this paint will absolutely work exterior as long as it is sealed with the appropriate sealers.
Casey, I will make sure that she does, because sometimes she gets in there and she doesn't want to, but I'll make sure she does. Never you mind. Casey wants you to do the queen inlay on your wall and record
video.
it.
I know, it's true.
Yeah,
I need
it's
to.
true.
No, actually, Erin.
Aaron.
So now I not
sure.
only have this one nagging me about it, I have Erin, because Erin's
It's
like,
true.
my stockists want to see it, Josie.
I know.
Our customers want to see it, Josie.
It's true. It's true. And
It's
I
true.
get it. Sometimes I just want to get in and get creative, but we will make sure
Well,
that gets recorded.
and for me, it's not even that. I tend to just be so focused on
Mhm.
the project that I have a hard time multitasking
I know, but
mentally.
Erin can record it for you, or I'll come
Yeah.
over and record it for you.
I said I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions?
No. Oh, wait. One more. T.
Okay.
Woodall. Hi, T. It's so good to see you. When you are doing a large inlay, how do you apply the paint without paint seams showing, a wet edge? So we will be going over that in our next segment of this 3-part series. So this is a 3-part series for those of you who joined us later.
Mhm.
This today is step 1.
Arranging and trimming.
Arranging and trimming. It's talking about the arrangement of your inlay. The next one, we are going to be showing how to apply the inlay
Yes.
on the piece.
Yes.
And then the third one will be removing the paper and sealing your project.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yes. Now, before we wrap it up,
Mm-hmm.
you guys are awesome. Thank you for spending this time. I do want to remind you that inlays are not a synthetic film. They are actual artist quality proprietary paint developed specifically for our industry. So when you have your finished product, it's painted. It's like painted. You don't have
It's
a
just
decal.
paint.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there's just, for one thing, it's very satisfying to know that, but for another, it does affect the quality of your project in
Yeah.
a favorable way. So
Yes.
there's that. And then the other thing, the second usage. I actually had an example of
Go
a
get it.
second use.
Go get it.
All right, I'm getting it.
Go
I'm
get
getting it.
We're going a little longer than we expected to today, but that's okay. We're covering good stuff here. And I love that you guys have so many questions.
So
I lost my, there it is.
I
Okay, I'm
take
back.
that back. Third use. This, and I'll get it under this so you can get a close up, is actually the third application, because the second was a little nightstand that we did. and
No,
we
that
showed-
was the second.
correct.
Slide.
Yeah,
The
and
first
this is
was,
and this is
oh,
the
right,
third.
Right.
Yes,
Sorry.
the first was the drop leaf
Yes.
table. The second was that nightstand,
Mhm.
and this is the third use. Let me
Third application. Can you
Yes.
believe this?
Let me just bring this up so I can do a little.
showsy.
Yeah. It's
That
this
is
gorgeous
the third
periwinkle,
application of the same inlay, you guys.
periwinkle color. So the reason I bring this up is we understand like that these products cost money and that everybody works hard for their dollar. We get that. And when we're talking about the cost of inlays, we want to be clear that the value ends up being really good if you plan, especially if you plan your projects in such a way that you will use multiple uses, because you can get 2, sometimes 3, and I've even heard of 4 uses out of the same inlay. And I'm telling you, people, I read all the time people saying, I actually love the second use even more than the first use.
Mm-hmm.
So
Alexander Brown said the third application is pure fire.
Right?
True. It has so much character and natural fade and
It does.
broken parts. It's just gorgeous.
And you get little bits of heavier pigment that did not release on in this case, the first 2 uses, coming through and just giving you this depth. I mean,
yes.
So I just wanted to hit on that because when we're talking about inlays, we're talking about the quality of your finished project. And if you repurpose or upcycle furniture for a living, that quality is going to be important to you. What it is when you are finished with it, it's a painted piece, and the value, because you're going to get multiple, at least 2, sometimes 3, even 4 uses out of this same inlay. So
yes. Also, I will add a third really cool, awesome thing in that because it's paint, you can get really fun and experimental with your techniques after it's applied.
Yes.
So we will be delving into that even more a little bit down the road once you guys get your basics down. We're going to take you on a journey with some different techniques with these inlays as well. So buckle up, ladies and gents.
Thank you so much, everybody.
For being here. It was so much fun. And I'm excited. I'm excited to get these basics down with you guys and conquer that creative fear.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Mwah. Mwah, 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 mwah.
Bye-bye.